In this video, we're going to discuss the maintenance process. This is going to have two different populations or viewer types, I'm aware, where you're going to have a number of folks who are, one-man show. You have maybe one or two units under management that you own, maybe a very small portfolio. And then, of course, we're going to have full-service property management companies who you're either looking to build out like a full team or a full company that offers sort of the full suite of services of property management. You may have in-house, employees in your maintenance department. So even though this video is more tailored toward those larger organizations, there are definitely still some really good value points for the sole proprietor or the small one-man show who may be hiring a maintenance worker, someone as a handyman who owns their own business and is operating at a much smaller scale. Number one, communication. This is going to be a theme for everything here, communication, right? You're never done with communication. You've never reached your max. It's always a constant improvement of communication. But if there's one thing you really hit a home run on here, it's communication. When the tenant reaches out, let them know you received their issue. Even if you don't have an ETA or any helpful information, just acknowledging receipt is going to set off this sort of project, if you will, with the tenant and getting this issue resolved. It's going to set it off on the right foot, right? If I can't tell you how many times I've seen companies that just fail at this really simple task. Now the tenant's wondering, did you get my issue? Are you working on it? What's going on here? Why is your response time so bad? Even if you got it and you're actually working on it, if you don't communicate with the tenant about it, they don't know. And that sets off a really negative sort of start to this relationship. So once you've acknowledged receipt of the issue, if you're not operating in a management software, which all management software does come with like a work order or a service request system built into it, if you're not, just put it in a spreadsheet. Have all of your work orders documented, for reference in the future. For if there's any issue that arises, you can always pull up the old information and say, okay, I fixed this issue once before, and here was what the culprit was. So you're going to want to have that historical data. That's really important. If you're using management software, get it entered into the work order system there. And then from there, it's going to be entered based on priority. Now, priority is something that we discussed in previous videos. I cover that right in the lease process with the tenant. I explain to them during the leasing process, what is a high or a critical priority issue? What are a couple examples of those, right? Water, fire, things like that. Things that represent an immediate risk to the health and safety of the occupants and or the property itself. What's a medium priority issue? What's a low priority issue? Sort of set those expectations with the tenant during the lease signing process, and don't let it stop there. I periodically send out a reminder. What are examples of the different priority type issues? What can you expect for a response time? I also reiterate, your move-in checklist was not a list of things I'm going to fix. It's a list of things that you want to identify, so you're not responsible for those when you move out. So having all those bases covered, we've acknowledged receipt of the issue. Now we're going to get it entered into our queue, and we're going to get that work scheduled. Give the tenant at least 24-hour notice, ideally more, of when someone is going to be out to take a look at their issue. You don't want to go any less than 24 hours in the state of New York. I've had people outright decline access because we didn't hit that window, even though it was a very high priority issue. So make sure you communicate nice and early to them, give them a heads up. I try not to coordinate with their schedule. If it's something they don't need to be home for, I let them know you don't need to be home for this. You're welcome to be home. It's your home. But I'm merely providing you with notice, because another thing that happens all the time, you're going back and forth with the tenant 5, 6, 7 times. You'd be amazed how busy these people are when this is a high priority or critical issue. So give them notification. We're going to be out on this day. You're welcome to be home. We're coming, and that's really how you need to handle it if you want to get these issues done and not have them turn into bigger problems. So fast forward beyond the notification. Now the team is coming out to take a look at the issue. We would order online these like door hangers with our logo on them and a little space to write in kind of, some notes. So we'd leave it on, their counter or put it on the door just to give them a heads up. Yeah, we were here today. and here's what we did, or here's what we found. When the team is there, you're wanting them to take photos of everything. Okay. They need to photograph everything because this may become a dispute at some point down the road, right? You never fixed that tile, or you never fixed the sink. Yeah, I actually replaced it. But what happened was when you got home, someone in your household broke it again. Here's the video, or here's the photo I took, time and date stamped, of it having been fixed. I've had people break things pretty quickly after we fixed them. And if you don't have that information on hand to reference and the facts to provide them with, you're probably going to go out there and pay to have it fixed again. If you have that information on hand, well, then you've got a little more leverage to put that cost back on the tenant or work something else out. Once the issue's been remedied and wrapped up, you're going to want to make sure that the work order, whether it's on a spreadsheet or in a system, gets updated. Our maintenance team, they used to, the maintenance manager used to receive all of the work logs. So he'd put together the schedule for everyone based upon the work order queue. Every person on the team would get their own daily schedule emailed to them. They knew exactly where they were going. He would provide access information. He would provide any little helpful notes, specific scope of work when possible, time limits on jobs, right? Because it shouldn't take you 5 hours to replace a toilet. So he would set expectations for his team on, this is how long I expect this to get done. Here's your list of work for today. I think this is a reasonable list. If for any reason you don't get through all of it, please let me know. So he'd have a lot of back and forth communication with his maintenance staff, the technicians in the field. They would provide him with daily summaries through email. So yeah, they needed to be tech savvy enough to take photos and send emails. That was a requirement for the job. We did dabble with tablets. We really didn't find it to be a necessity, honestly. They were fine sending over photos and an email summary with how many hours they were on each job, with a little blurb about what they did on each job and the corresponding photos. They were fine doing that on their phones or at home on their computers when they got home. We found that the tablets often didn't get used. We always offered them, but they didn't get used as much as we kind of expected they would. So they would provide him with the daily summaries, and then he would provide me with his kind of roll up, if you will, high level summaries of the work that got completed. That information would also be provided to accounting for the work to be invoiced. I as the owner would get my eyes on it as well. So if any adjustments needed to be made for any reason on that. So key components of this process, the maintenance process: communication, number one. Providing the tenants with an update, communication within your own maintenance team, right? Making sure that the maintenance manager is communicating and coordinating with his maintenance staff, that the staff is reporting on the issues, right? That the work orders are getting updated. Documentation is really the second part of this. It's really important. Getting the photos, getting the work order updated and getting it all documented. Emails for everything. Well, it's convenient to text your tenant or it's convenient to call them, a little bit tougher and a little less professional than, say, an email, which would have time and date stamp and everything right there. I found that if we ever had to go to court for anything, text messages were kind of tough. Phone calls, it's just hearsay, right? Unless it's been recorded, which was not really a thing at the time. Emails were everything. So I would make sure communication and documentation are the two points you really hit on the maintenance process.